Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the ICT Educator webinar series for the fall of 2020. I'm Steve Wright, the statewide director for the California Community College ICT sector team, which is part of the Workforce and Economic Development Department of the California Community College system. Today's webinar is brought to you by our sector team and is produced by Nicole Sherman. All our guest speakers are volunteers, and they volunteer their time and their knowledge for the sake of student success in our system. We started this series a couple of years ago now as an alternative to attending physical conferences, but there's one conference every year that we recommend people see, especially our educators. Go to the ICT Educators Conference. It's going to be January 7th and 8th. Naturally, it's virtual this year, but it's usually hosted at Cisco headquarters, and it's a wonderful, knowledgeable event. If you're a faculty, you're going to want to see it. On our website these days, we have archived over 35 webinars from our carefully selected experts, and they give successful how-tos and techniques for your use. Each webinar is video recorded, edited to get my oohs and ahs out, chapterized, transcripted, along with the original PowerPoint presentations and other relevant links for your use. With over 3,500 views to date, we know we're making an impact with the faculty. They consider us an excellent source of information, including labor market information for various grants and things like, and use in their classroom. Today's webinar archive should be posted in less than a week. Coming up in the next a couple of weeks, we've got how college faculty can benefit from self-taught programmer movement. We're going to have Corey Altoff, who wrote this wonderful book on self-taught programmers, has over 100,000 followers on Facebook. They're going to be looking at competency-based education. What is it and what is next, based on a research study done by Jobs for the Future, JFF. And then we're going to be looking at a digital media dual enrollment best practice at Coastline College. So a great lineup for the next 3 weeks. Today, however, I'm very pleased that we have the Google Career Certificates, updates, and how you can get involved. I personally think the approach that Google's rolled out here is a game changer. Currently, it's being offered at least 5 of our colleges, possibly more. And when you see what they have today, you'll want to be next. And with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Angela Duffy from Google, who's going to introduce the rest of her team and get us started.
Thanks so much, Steve. Hi there, everyone, and good morning. My name is Angela Duffy, and I'm on the Google Career Certificates team, working with community colleges and CTE high schools who aim to offer the IT certificate through their programming. I'm here with my teammates, Tina and Christian. And Tina, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thank you so much for having the Google team today. As Angela mentioned, we are here on behalf of the Google Career Certificates team, which is also a subset of the Grow with Google team within Google as a larger entity. I am a program manager within the team, and I'll be here and kind of in the wings to answer any questions throughout the presentation.
Thanks, Tina. And Christian?
Hi, everyone. My name is Christian Michael. I'm also on the team. My focus is specifically on workforce development and employer engagement. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about how we are doing that and how we've been doing that over the last few years to make sure that job placements are set up for completers of our certificate program. So I'll be back in just a few minutes to talk about that.
Awesome. Thanks to you both. Well, first, I'm going to share an overview of our IT professional certificates. Then I'll talk about how you, community colleges, can get involved with the Google Career Certificates. Part of our mission is to help people without college degrees find high-paying, high-growth jobs. And we know that people without degrees are more affected by economic downturns. Next slide, please. So during these uncertain times, there is an increased emphasis on reskilling and upskilling as a pathway to in-demand jobs. More than ever, learners need access to hands-on remote training, and employers need a diverse pipeline of IT candidates. Next slide, please. The Google IT Support Professional Certificates takes beginner learners to job readiness in 3 to 6 months. we currently offer the IT certificates and will launch 3 new certificates in UX design, data analytics, and project management by the end of the year. Our certificates make no revenue to Google. They are part of our Grow with Google program, which was created to help people grow their careers. It's also important to understand that our certificates do not teach Google products or services and are meant to prepare learners for a job at any company. Now, diversity and inclusion are at the heart and soul of our programs. We reviewed extensive data from the Level Playing Field Institute, which tells us, for example, that if I'm a woman in tech and I see another woman in tech on the screen, I'm 4 times more likely to engage with the content. When we discuss user scenarios with senior leaders, we don't use he as the default pronoun, we use she or they. Next slide, please. And next slide. So Google was experiencing difficulty finding qualified candidates for entry-level IT roles. And we knew that qualified did not have to mean having a 4-year college degree. In fact, the majority of job openings in the US don't require a college degree. As many of you know, these critical middle skill jobs cut across all sectors. So we partnered with a nonprofit organization for low-income young adults called Year Up and built a pathway into IT support roles at Google. Now, we wanted to make these opportunities available to everyone. So we took what we learned from building our own pathway program, and in January 2018, we launched the Google IT Support Professional Certificate to take beginner learners to job readiness in 3 to 6 months. More than ever, learners need access to hands-on remote training, and employers need a diverse pipeline of IT candidates. Next slide, please. The IT certificate is a robust program developed and created by Googlers and includes a combination of videos, interactive labs, and coding assignments. We also provide job supports, including resume and interview coaching, and a coalition of employers that Christian will talk about a bit later. Next slide. This beginner certificate, the Google IT Support Professional Certificate, is comprised of 5 courses, each of which has 6 modules that introduce the learner through a mix of video lectures, quizzes, and hands-on labs and widgets to troubleshooting, customer service, networking, operating systems, system administration, and security. Next. Thank you. The IT certificate has been offered through the open online course provider Coursera. We have completers all over the world and right here in California. 80% of learners said the program helped them advance their job search or career within 6 months, including finding a new job, getting a raise, or starting a new business, as well as enhancing skills for a current role or improving their ability to get a new job. Next slide, please. In addition to individual learner access, the program has been brought to 100 community colleges through grant funding from Google.org and a partnership with Jobs for the Future. Additionally, CTE high schools have started a pilot this year. Next slide. And next slide. So, in an effort to make the IT certificate sustainable and scalable to further its impact and ability to support non-traditional learners even more, Google has designed the IT certificate on a free Google platform called QuickLabs. The free platform is optimized for instructor-led training, and we are focused on bringing the IT certificate to community colleges and CTE high schools, which have more direct pathways to jobs. Next slide. Now, there are a few expectations that a school should meet in order to consider taking on the IT certificate, ensuring the school as well as the learners are set up for success. Additionally, schools with articulation agreements for college credit and relationships with local employers are particularly well positioned to take on the IT certificate. Next, please. As the certificate is a launch pad into a career in IT, learners don't need previous IT experience, but an interest in IT support or a technology career pathway is important. And next slide. Learners can earn a recommendation of 12 college credits for completing the Google IT Support Professional Certificate, the equivalent of 4 college courses at the associate degree level. Now, I'll hand it over to Christian to discuss employer involvement.
My name is Christian Michael. My focus at Google and on this team specifically is on workforce engagement. And so with that, I want to talk a little bit about the employer supports that we have for our learners. We want to make sure at the end of the day that not only are learners getting the right skills by way of our certificate program, but they are being supported as they're entering the workforce. So here are a couple of things that they'll have access to. One, we are covering the bill for giving them access, direct access to an organization, a hiring and staffing agency called Career Circle. There's no cost on the job seeker side, and there's no cost on the employer side. So a huge value to learners to work with a local IT recruiter that will then connect them to jobs. And this has looked in a variety of different ways. We've been working with students who have completed our certificate program that perhaps have no experience working in IT. In Career Circle has given them quick sort of project-based contractual opportunities to really build up their resume. So every learner we know is different. Every learner has a different circumstance, and they're working with our completers on a one-on-one sort of basis. And that will continue with these new pathway programs that we are building across the United States. Also, some other resources that we've built into the actual curriculum. One is Big Interview, and this helps learners build their resumes. It helps them practice through mock interviews, get real good feedback on their interview technique. And it actually gives them job search tips as well. If you aren't familiar with Big Interview, you can go to biginterview.com and you can watch a demo video. I would encourage you to do that. It's a really sophisticated platform that anyone, regardless of their experience level, could really benefit from. It does cost an annual fee if you were just going directly to that website, but it's available absolutely free to learners that are going through our certificate program. I think the cost is near $500 a year for an annual subscription. And again, that's available absolutely free to those that are going through our program. It also tailors the interview experience specific to the IT industry and a job role. It also takes into account their experience level and time to prepare. So you can actually tell Big Interview, for example, that look, you only have a week to prepare for this interview, and it will give you some prep time and basically lay out a scope and sequence to better prepare you for that interview. Or perhaps you have a month, it will give you something that is designated appropriate for the time that you have available to prepare. Also, learners who complete the Google IT Support Professional Certificate and also pass the CompTIA A+ certification exam. And many of you are probably familiar with the CompTIA A+ certification. They'll actually earn a dual credential from CompTIA and Google. And that's a badge that they can post on their LinkedIn profile, catching the attention of potential employers. So just making them more marketable in the marketplace as they look to get those jobs. They'll also receive a 20% discount on those CompTIA A+ exams. So another value that comes through taking the actual certificate program. And they'll be able to, regardless of whether they take the CompTIA A+ certification exam, they'll be able to claim a badge by completing the Google certificate program, and they can share that on their LinkedIn profile as well. We also, and I think this is really important, and it goes back to what Angela said about really focusing on diversity and inclusion as really the bedrock and the heart and soul of all of our certificate programs. We have built in learner stories of diverse completers who have attained jobs in IT support by way of video vignettes throughout the actual curriculum to really motivate completers and to get them thinking about their job search and the types of positions that will be available after they complete the certificate. And we really see that, and our learners tell us that that is something that really motivates them to actually complete the certificate program. So a lot of great resources to support learners as they seek employment. So let's talk about employment. A key piece of our efforts are ensuring employers beyond Google know about the certificate and are able to tap local, diverse, non-traditional talent. We want what you all want, and that is for learners to get the right skills, but we also want them to get jobs. So we've put a tremendous amount of budgeting resources and staffing resources. There are a number of us on the Grow with Google team that are laser focused on making sure that our completers are getting jobs. So we want to work together. We're working with workforce development boards, chambers of commerce across the US, and with those community colleges and CTE programs that have pathway programs to educate more local employers on the Google certs. And we are onboarding interested employers to all of the free resources that are of huge benefit to them. And this is going to be just key to increasing the job placements for your learners. You see some logo soup here. We've formed a hiring consortium of employers that have signed on to be part of the hiring consortium that is actively sourcing talent through our completer pool. We've also built a job platform, and Career Circle has been part of that as well, to make sure, again, that we're closing the loop between completers of the program and actual job placements that are available. So we'll continue, of course, to do that. This is a snapshot just of a one-pager. We've really thought about, from a marketing perspective, how we're reaching out to employers and HR individuals at any size company, whether it be a small business that may be hiring one individual in IT a year or every 2 years. We want to make sure that they're looking at our talent pool just as much as a large corporation that maybe has a team of L1, level 1 tech support that they're actually hiring for. So we've put together just some marketing collateral that you all could utilize if you build a pathway program to approach your local employers to draw them to the hiring consortium. And again, we're doing the work in terms of onboarding those new employers to the hiring consortium to make sure that they understand all of the resources that are available to them. We've also built this landing page. This is sort of our intake for employer interest. So we make sure that this is communicated out to interested employers and ask them for some very basic information about their company, when they're planning on hiring for these types of positions. And then we set up an onboarding call with them to make sure that we understand their hiring needs and that they know, again, all of the resources that are available to them by way of the hiring consortium. We also, with those partners that we work with, like community colleges, you all may already have an advisory board, an industry advisory board that you could send this out to. Any employer that joins the hiring consortium that denotes that they were referred by a community college, we of course want to make sure that you know about that as well. So we're closing the loop so this employer joined the hiring consortium. They're actively searching for candidates by way of all of the resources that are available to them, absolutely free. And so we, of course, are closing the loop between all of those employers that are joining the hiring consortium and all of our partners, like our community college and CTE partners as well. So that's it for me. I'm gonna hand things back over to you, Angela.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Christian. As we previously mentioned, Qwiklabs is a completely free homegrown platform. And while the platform is owned by Google, the content itself is product agnostic. and does not promote Google products or services. And next slide. So we're partnering with Global Grid for Learning, or GG4L, who is our middleware provider that links learning management systems with Qwiklabs. So your school's technical point of contact would work with Sasha, the technical integration point person from GG4L. And let's go to the next slide and we can talk a little bit about technical requirements, as you might be wondering what your school needs to get involved. So institutions must either have a learning management system or a student information system, and learners need access to laptops or desktops, as well as consistent internet access. And we'll go to the next slide, and we have a video of our colleague Sarah providing a brief demo of the Qwiklabs platform.
This is the landing page for course 1 of the Google IT Support Professional Certificate. There are 5 courses that make up the program, so each course will have its own landing page. Each course is divided up into modules, so you can see these boxes here with the module name, as well as a description of what content will be in that module, and then a list of the items like videos, documents, and quizzes that are in that module. You can click to expand each module, and you'll see again another list of items, and they're further segmented by lesson headers to just organize the content. I'll click into the video program introduction to show what a video item looks like. So the videos are embedded here in the UI. I'll also flag that you can toggle this left nav bar on and off. So you can either focus on just the content or have the nav bar here on your side. So those are video items. I'll also show a reading next. And readings are basically just embedded PDFs. They have links and resources to other supplemental materials or heads up or reminders for the content. I'll then show a quiz. Also wanted to point out that you can toggle these lesson headers over here as well if you're interested. So I'll open up this practice quiz. We have practice quizzes and graded quizzes, and they'll be clearly marked if they are practice or graded. Each quiz has a passing threshold of 80%, which will be clearly displayed at the top of the quiz. And then when you go through and take the quiz and click submit, you'll see what your score is immediately up here at the top. You'll be able to see which questions you got right and wrong. For correct questions and for incorrect questions, we have formative feedback. If it's correct, it'll be a reinforcing statement or a piece of encouragement. And then if it's incorrect, I'll give them a little bit of nudge as to why they got the question wrong or content to revisit. Quizzes also can be retaken. Graded quizzes have a retake policy of 3 attempts within 24 hours. So most quizzes are multiple choice or multiple select, so they'll look a little bit something like this. And then I will jump ahead to a hands-on lab activity, which is down here. So hands-on labs are again embedded in this UI. So when the learner is ready, they'll click Start Lab and the lab timer will start. There will be some background information that will then lead to instructions on the lab itself. And then each lab has a certain number of objectives that are each worth 10 points. So for example, this first lab just has 1 objective. They'll go in and create this folder in the Linux virtual machine that will pop up. And then when they're done, they'll check this progress marker. If they get it correct, it'll show them that they got it correct. And then their score up here will populate with 10 out of 10 up top. So those are hands-on lab activities. I'll toggle back to the landing page. This is the student-facing website. So this is what students will see when they log in. There's also another option to jump to the next course item up here with the next activity button. So as an instructor, you'll have your subset of students, and then that will, every activity that is done in here will feed into what we call the instructor site over here. So again, this is for just course 1, so you'll have one of these for each of the 5 courses. And it'll first start with a summary of the overall stats of course 1 has 97 videos, for example. And then at any given point, you can see how many learners have passed or failed the activities that they've attempted so far. I'll click into that same quiz item so you can zoom in on individual performance. So I'll just pick on myself and my teammate Katie here. So for this practice quiz, 8 people have passed, 3 have failed, 2 are in progress, and 3 have not yet started over this whole list of students. I also wanted to call out that there's this live toggle button here. So if you want to prevent students from getting too far ahead in the content, or if you want someone to take the quiz all at the same time, you can toggle that on and off here. So you can see, again, I'll pick on my teammate Katie, that she took 3 attempts for this quiz and passed with an 80%. And you can review all of her attempts here. So you can look at the course item level, which will be helpful for things like graded quizzes. And then you can also click on individual student profiles. So for Katie as a student, you can see how many activities she's passed, failed, in progress, and not started. And then again, it'll highlight for graded items, her score, and the number of attempts. You can also get to individual student pages by the student's navigation up here. Which again, just shows myself and Katie. Out of the 134 activities, how many have been completed, things like average course scores and whatnot. So I will toggle back to the landing page here. And that is an overview of the IT support certificate on the QuickLens platform.
Great. Thanks so much, Christian. Okay, and we can head over to the next slide and dive into implementation and really see a bit about how we can actually get started. So implementation is pretty straightforward. Here's a quick view of what you can expect. After this webinar, determine whether your school would like to take on the IT certificate and register by filling out the registration form and school profile form, which we'll share with you afterwards. Schools can start offering the IT certificate as soon as January 2021, and the timeline will depend on when your school wants to start. Integration may be complete this fall, but access for learners will not occur until your start date. And next slide. So for next steps, if you're interested in learning more, contact us at itsupportcert@google.com. And I imagine Tina will probably include that in the chat feature as well. If you're ready to get started, you can complete the registration form and school profile form, like I mentioned. And again, we'll share that out afterwards. And if we continue on to the next slide, here's a few resources to reference. And in that follow-up email, we'll share links so you can click through and access these resources directly. And again, if you're interested in learning more, go ahead and contact us at itsupportcert@google.com. And next slide. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I'll hand it over to our fantastic hosts, Steve and Nicole.
Well, thank you, Angela, Christian, and Tina. That's I'm sure we'll have some questions here, but I think it's pretty profound the way that you launched this and the way you define the target student that you're going for. I believe that I've been in this industry now for a very long time. I remember the internet being developed. Anyhow, but the idea initially was, how do we train people who are currently employees at tech companies to upgrade their skills? You seem to have started with, let's go find the original learner, the entry person, the underserved, and help them. And I think that has a lot of value, and the outreach to the students themselves. Do you plan on an advertising campaign or anything that generates student interest?
Oh, sorry about that. I was on mute. So our specific team on this call today isn't really kind of leading the charge with marketing efforts more at like the national level. Well, our approach really is kind of, informational sessions like these, where we kind of take the lead of the administrators and the faculty, and really looking for advocates at that level, and then kind of leaning on them to really understand the level of interest at their institutions individually, and really working at a much more granular level to get started with these types of schools. And so short answer is, there is like broader Grow with Google marketing, as well as blog posts and you know, I imagine some folks on this call have seen some of the press releases that have come out about the career certificates. But for more specifics about like engaging interest down at the individual school level, I don't believe that we have marketing efforts in that way. It's more kind of informational sessions like this that we are really trying to engage interest.
Okay. Yeah, well, I find that interesting. You know, in our group, we serve all 115 community colleges in the state of California, and we there are a number of tech type academies that have been with us for a long time. Cisco has been the longest partner we've had, and then AWS is making a huge footprint recently. You guys are gaining ground very rapidly. And in almost everything that we do, I mean, there's a certain attention span among our faculty and our deans as to what they can really afford to spend their time doing. You have an excellent looking program here. And, you know, and I love the outreach. I love the employer engagement piece, as Christian knows. That's all I talk to him about. But the other part, it just seems to me kind of ironic is, because I know you all are trained in marketing. How are you going to get people to call up to college and say, do you have it?
Yeah,
Because
Steve,
that's kind of important.
two things I want to mention on that. I think in terms of broad marketing, which you're right, Google is good at in terms of broad marketing approach. Our approach with the Google Career Certificates has been quite strategic and focused, and maybe even surgical, in terms of we know that there are individuals that would really benefit from a certificate program like this. So we, and Angela talked a little bit about this, our initial approach was making sure that those individuals that are working directly with nonprofit organizations like Goodwill, like the USO for veteran populations. A lot of our initial approach was making sure that those nonprofit organizations and community colleges not only knew about the certificate program, but they were able to communicate to their constituency the value of a certificate program. So that was sort of one approach, right? The other, and it's sort of an approach, build it, I'll call it a build it and they will come sort of approach. We knew that if we built a consortium of employers that were actively sourcing their talent by way of the certificate, that then as a result of more it becoming clear on job requisitions that a company like Walmart or Target or Bank of America had on their job requisition as a requirement a Google IT support professional certificate, we knew that then that the consumer or the learner would then start looking into certificate programs like the Google certificate. So I think our approach has probably been a little bit different perhaps than a sort of broad marketing approach, but it is something that I think has resonated well with learners. The other piece of data that I want to mention, before COVID, we had just surpassed over a 2-year period over 100,000 learners that had enrolled in the IT certificate. So this is pre-COVID, just 6-7 months ago. Now we have over 400,000 learners that have enrolled in the certificate program. So that also shows, as a result of COVID, as a result of individual learners looking for more online and virtual options, but also sourcing that through community colleges and nonprofit organizations, we've of course seen that uptick of learners enroll in our program.
Well, your brand certainly helps you a lot, and I think it'll help the students too. I've had more than one CEO of a college pick up the phone, call me and say, "Hey, Steve, how do I get that Google thing on my campus?" Okay, so I know that it hits the radar very, very quickly. I was curious when you talked about your employer industry engagement efforts there. Are you dealing with placement agencies? I mean, most of us in the business have been used to going to Dice, and some of these other places and seeing that. Do you find them worthwhile partners in your efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. Career Circle has been a key partner in terms of helping place our completers, but also, Steve, managed service providers are one of the largest consumers of completers of our IT certificate programs. So a lot of you on this call maybe know about organizations like Kforce or TEKsystems or Infosys. These managed service providers that often work with large companies to provide solutions for everywhere from level 1 tech support on up to, you know, programming and things like that. So again, a large portion of our completers are actually getting jobs through managed service providers like that. Lori asked a great question about in the chat about percentage of students that have been hired. Lori, this is something that is sort of our North Star in terms of job placement. And again, making sure that individuals that are actively looking for jobs are able to get jobs by way of the certificate program. We survey our certificates both right after they complete the certificate and then 6 months out from completion of the certificate. And as you can imagine, some individuals are taking the certificate to, you know, get a promotion in their current job, or they're in a role and they need some more technical skill, so they're going to take the certificate. Or, of course, individuals are taking the certificate because perhaps they were dislocated as a result of COVID. They worked in retail or hospitality. They had this acumen for customer service, and they wanted to take that acumen, apply, you know, these technical skills, and then get a job in IT. So we get all different types of career sort of objectives by way of the certificate program. But what we've found is that 80% of those individuals who have taken our certificate program have seen the career outcome that they planned for when taking the certificate program. We, of course, look at that metrics. That's sort of what we continue to want to escalate, you know, increase as much as possible, is making sure that people are attaining that that outcome that they really set forth to pursue by way of the certificate program.
You know, I was very intrigued by your project management program you have coming up. I don't know what you can say about the content of that, but that's been a glaring hole in for a long time. Project management, the PMP thing is very huge, and it takes people a long time to get through it. And looking for a simpler version of that is long overdue. And you know, one of the things I find out whenever I go on like Burning Glass or these others, I see what are the most asked for certifications. Project management's always on top. So can you tell us a little bit about what's in that and how accessible it's going to be compared to, say, your traditional PMP?
So with the certificate, with the 3 new certificates, Steve, I think it's a really important point that as with the IT certificates, these are rigorous certificate programs, right? They're not 12 hours, you know, 24 hours in terms of direct instruction and project-based learning. These are, you know, 120 plus hours of student direct time and around 6 months, of course, for completion. But with topics like you mentioned with project management and with even data analytics and UX design, you could have 2-year programs, and actually some universities actually have 2-year and 4-year degrees in those areas. So we wanted to make sure that we're distilling down to the fundamentals of each of those sort of content areas. So that's going to be true with UX design. It's going to be true with project management. It'll be true with data analytics, so that a learner with no experience at all in any one of those areas can quickly pick up, understand the fundamentals, do some practice-based and project-based learning so that they really get familiar with what a day-to-day would look like within one of those fields, and be able to practice that. And then again, just like we're doing with the IT support professional certificate, make sure that we're giving them some scaffolding support to make them successful as they're looking for job placement at the end of the certificate program.
Well, it's very impressive.
Sorry, I was just going to piggyback off that. I think, you know, again, for schools that do sign on for the IT certificate to come into their programming, you know, you'll kind of be like the first individuals to learn more updates about those additional career certificates as well. So I think it's kind of, you know, a nice positioning as well, just to, you know, have one of these career certificates within your programming. And as we have more updates, you know, you'll be part of the program for Grow with Google. And so naturally, anybody that's taking on the IT certificate will be the first to hear more about the other career certificates and how to get involved as well.
Well, we saw from the slides who to contact if we have further questions. Nicole, did we have a survey we wanted to put up real quick? We just wanted to go ahead and ask the group here if there's if you're interested in proceeding with something like this, so we from this we'd be able to capture your email address, and from that, you know, I can help facilitate some discussions, or maybe there needs to be another question and answer session or something like that. We'd be happy to do that. I'm watching the results trickle in, and so far we don't have anyone who's not interested. Isn't that something? Very nice.
I have a question. Can I ask a question, Steve?
Go right ahead, please.
So my name's Wendy Porter. I work with Steve. I represent the Far North Community Colleges and for ICT education. And I have one of my colleges implemented the Google IT Cert this semester inside of their existing coursework through JFF and the Coursera platform. Next semester, that same college is going to continue to do the program with Quick Labs, and then we have 2 more colleges coming on with Quick Labs. The question I have is, there's been this really great resource for us to access marketing collateral, et cetera, through JFF's learning community platform. Is there going to be anything like that available once JFF is no longer part of this and it's just Google and Quick Labs? Will there be resources like that for faculty and for myself?
That's a great question, Wendy. And we have actually confirmed with JFF whether that learning community specifically will still remain on their website, on their portal, and they have said that it will remain open. And so that is a publicly available website and content. So as long as JFF is, you know, willing to keep that up and running, then, you know, schools are able to access that at their own leisure. And Google, on our side, are working on coming up and developing our own materials as well. But just to answer that specific question about JFF themselves, that website should be remaining open. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, 35 of you responded yes, you'd like to be contacted. So we know where you live. Okay, so we will reach out to you. More questions from the group here? I mean,
So Steve, this is Richard Grodigan. I don't have a question. I do have a comment though, and so hi everybody, Richard Grodigan. I like Wendy. I'm one of the regional directors for ICT, and I serve the Bay Area community colleges along with 2 others. Olivia Hereford is here as well, and I really actually got involved in the Google program in early days a couple of years ago, and actually taught the first 2 modules at one of the community colleges one semester when it first rolled out in the spring of 2019. And I'm really thrilled to see the, you know, the reduction of the sort of hurdles we had to go over working through Coursera, through Quick Labs, all the different sites that students had to go through. So that's a great improvement, and eliminating that sort of looming cost associated with using Coursera too, that students were thinking they might have to incur that cost. So it's great. And I think for Google, this is great too. You know, we're 115 community colleges. There's 2.4 million students. I mean, if you really want to market a program, you know, you're going about it the right way by engaging the California community colleges. So happy to see this transition, and hopefully you guys keep the date in January for our winter conference that Steve alluded to back in January. Another opportunity to put the word out and talk to even more educators. So thanks.
More questions or comments from the group?
Thank you. And so this question perhaps for you, Steve, Wendy, or even Richard, for those that are already utilizing the Google certificate. So for perhaps Wendy, I thought I heard that you stated that the certificate was part of another program. So does that mean that it's not a standalone? And how did that evolve? That's for Wendy. And then for Richard, for you, is your program specifically the standalone for the Google certificate? And how did you transition it through the curriculum process? And was it credit or non-credit?
I
So-
can answer those questions because we wanted to roll it out right away. When it was released, it was at the end of 2018 in December that we first were contacted, and we wanted to be able to roll that out immediately in our courses. So we had to embed it, Stephanie, in existing courses, so we wouldn't have to go through the curriculum process. So we just kind of chose that, and I don't know that that's the best way to do it. So we embedded it with our A+ CompTIA courses. The A+ Security Plus was a kind of a nice fit for that, but it's a lot of content, and I think there's good arguments to have it as a standalone as well. So, it's kind of really up to your staff, the teachers that are delivering the content, and the support you can provide at your college. So either way, I think it's a great marriage with CompTIA A+. It's Google's obviously seen that too with having this badge for both. It's entry level. It covers a lot of things that A+ kind of misses, I think, that are important too, including even working in that virtual environment with Quick Labs is something that students need to know how to do. So.
Yeah, and I have very, similar feedback. The integrating it into the existing coursework was just the easiest way for us to move forward quickly to make sure that it was offered this fall. But it was hard, it was a lot of work on the faculty person's perspective, but she looked at it as let's do this as a pilot and see, is this really going to be supplemental to my courses? And it was, and she loved it. And I think what's going to happen next semester is we're going to do both. We're going to have a standalone, and then she's going to continue to keep it integrated, because the students that are going into her pathways are looking to maybe transition to Chico State. Whereas some adult learners who just want to get in and take that one course and get a job right away. So the other two colleges, Lassen and Siskiyou, are going to be doing it as adult ed course, not credit. So that's how they're going to be implementing it. But we'll see how it all plays out when we get the results. You do need to have that champion faculty member if you're going to integrate it into existing coursework, but it was valuable. She says that she's glad she did it. It made her teaching job much better. She's seen a lot more engagement with students and completion and success by having this additional curriculum inside of those courses. And the other thing is, when we reviewed it with our industry partners, they were very excited about it because of the components to customer service that weren't really integrated into his existing coursework. So there were two main takeaways from employers that I've interviewed. It's the customer support components. They're really happy about that. The other thing was the ability for the Google name to potentially attract non-traditional IT students. So a lot of our employers are trying to get more women in their IT departments, and they think that this will attract more of those kinds of students. So those are the two main pieces that the employers liked.
Okay, I'm sorry. And then just to follow up with that, Wendy. So for the adult ed certificate that you'll do, will be for non-credit, my understanding. And then for the course for which you have implemented it in, that's for credit, or is it is for credit? Okay. Thank you.
It's integrated into 5 different courses. Each one of those courses is 3 units.
Yeah, the integration at Las Positas College, where I taught, and there are folks from Las Positas here who could probably speak more on what's going on there today, but we integrated it into 4 courses. So, also the 12 units for that as well, and all for credit. I mean, that was our number one objective at the time, was to make it a 4-credit program. That's just my belief that all learning should get credit, in my opinion. So, but it's an additional hurdle. And
now the badge, though, isn't that based on taking a certification exam?
I think the badge, as I understand it, is just completion of the course.
Just completion, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there was a question earlier in the chat about you can just get the badge, pull down the badge after you complete the Google IT Support Professional Certificate, or when you complete that certificate, as well as pass the A+ certification exam, then you get one badge that is a dual badge from CompTIA and Google that, of course, they can put on their resume and LinkedIn profile.
And that's why you have the 20% discount on the certification testing. You know, when I try to understand the student journey in a lot of these things, I try to look at what's the total cost of ownership of getting to where they want to go. And it includes that test and maybe any last minute cramming, you know, stuff that they need. And so it all adds up, but it's good to have this direction. Any other questions from the group here? You got the experts on the line. All right, so this webinar, you know, it is recorded and we will edit it and put it on our website along with the transcript and all of the materials. And we have the names of all you people who said you wanted to be contacted. We'll be reaching out to you. And I just want to thank Angela and Christian and Tina for excellent presentation and some really wonderful concept development that you've done here. Certainly from our perspective, we know how hard it is to do things in the California community college system, and you're doing a whole lot of work to make it easy for us. And we appreciate that very much. So with that, thank you all very much. Have a good week.